Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast.
Well, hello there, DFW soccer curious. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. Looking fit as a fiddle, it is your captain of the Husky Hive Football Club, Dan Crooke. Howdy, Dan.
Hello.
Should take pride in that.
Our season starts tomorrow after the weather cancelled last week.
Did you get some acquisitions to improve the team from last year?
Yeah, I have no idea who they are, but yeah, actually I played with one of the guys who's pretty solid, so hoping for some trophies this time around.
Andy and I discussed trying to get the guy that's been producing the kick around for a bit to go out, EA. He's a big dude.
That's fine.
And
that's what it's there for.
No, I mean, like he's more like NFL linebacker size than soccer size. If that makes sense.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can't
Worst
get him a
case,
sponsor.
you stick him in goal.
Okay. Well, maybe he'd be pretty good at that. Yes. Very good. We look forward to weekly updates on the Husky Hive season progress.
Does that mean we get Baracho's updates too?
Nobody wants to hear about Baracho's updates, but yeah, I mean, if
you're wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can do that. We'll discuss that and see how Buzz feels about all of this self-indulgence as we move forward. And there he is, your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net. We're looking up his nose from a remote location somewhere not his normal place.
Yeah.
It is the amazing Buzz Carrick. Come and Buzz.
Well, speaking of being self-indulgent, there's an announcement to be made here at the beginning of this podcast. I think it's the appropriate time to do this. Yeah. So we've talked on the podcast once or twice in passing about how the fact that my in-laws live up in Spokane, Washington, and the time has come in life when my wife and I have decided that it's time to move to be near them as they get older. So I am moving to Spokane, Washington. In fact, I'm already there because this last week I was bringing all my stuff up here. I will be back in Dallas next week, but after that I'll be doing Third Degree from Washington. So it's not the first time that I've done this without living in Dallas, and there's lots of great help like Peter and Dan and many people that now help us on Third Degree, unlike the last time when I was doing it by myself from somewhere else. So slight change from location for me, but I think we do a great job across the board anyway. So nothing should change from the viewer's end, but I like to be publicly clear about what's happening and not holding back anything from anybody to seem like we're trying to game the system or something.
I have a lot of emotions about this, Buzzard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you and I have known each other a really long time.
That's true.
So
almost 30 years.
Yes. And I think I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you and Amy get to live in a place near her family and stuff, but it also sucks that you're not going to be in Dallas anymore.
Well, I'll be back every once in a while. We can hang out, obviously, and go see a soccer game or something here and there. So, but yeah, sometimes things come along in life and in time to change for family, so that's what's up, and we'll keep doing what we do.
I can't quite figure out if you've done this at the appropriate time just before the World Cup or not. Like, is that bad luck or, wow, you're lucky you're getting out of here just at the time?
It means he got tickets to the games in Seattle.
Oh, that's what it means.
I'm hoping that's what that means. Yeah. I put in for some. We'll see. Yeah.
Hey, wait a second. Wait a whole fucking second.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean you're suddenly now going to become a Sounders and Spokane fan, is it?
Well, not Sounders, certainly. Spokane, I might go to Spokane games, but it's hard to change.
You're not going to be a Zephyr, are you?
No. Well, I'm not a woman, so I'm not a Zephyr. We're around soccer so much and around pro games so much that like my only real sort of like pure fandom is Newcastle. I have an affinity for all the Dallas teams because I'm from Dallas and we've been covering them for a long time. But I certainly enjoy going to soccer games. Seattle's, it'd be like going to Houston to go to games. But, the local team here, Spokane, I'm sure I'll go watch both Velocity and Zephyr play, from time to time. So why wouldn't I go watch live soccer? It'd be nice.
You know, it's funny. There was a period of time when you weren't living here. You were doing your TV project in, was it New Orleans?
I was in Oklahoma City and then New Orleans both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the internet wasn't as robust with streaming and video chat and online recording and stuff.
Yeah.
And we got through Third Degree together through that time. And
Right.
you're way more connected in 2026 than you would have been back then. So I think everything will be just hunky-dory.
Yeah, the last time I did this was when we were with ESPN Dallas and Dallas Morning News, and neither one of them complained about the level of our coverage. You know, and since then we've added a lot of people and added a lot more production and coverage with various people helping us out. So I feel even more confident we'll be able to do it fine. And every FC Dallas game is streamed. Lots of Academy games are streamed. All the North Texas games are streamed. All the Velocity games are streamed. Like I can see every game. So like nothing's going to change. It's the same.
All right. Well, very good. There is the big news.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the world of DFW soccer. We've got lots to discuss today. Trinity was back at it. There was obviously a big announcement last week pertaining to USL, which they now are officially calling Premier. We predicted it here, kids. And so I have some thoughts about that. And I'm sure the other guys do too, that we can get into during this episode. But we'll first get off into the FC Dallas news, which is pretty funny because last week we were lamenting the lack of stuff to talk about. And lo and behold, just mere hours later, the sale of Martin Paz to Ajax popped up out of nowhere. And adios, great one. I'm going to miss that guy because I don't know if there's ever been a Dallas inbound foreign player come and move here and relocate here and dive into the Dallas culture quite like Mr. Paz did.
Oh, he was all in, wasn't he? Like, going to games, Mavericks and Stars, and living downtown at one of those cool condos. And he definitely embraced the Texasness of the whole thing, and was a great player too. Like, absolute phenomenal shot stopper, one of the best keepers we've had, and actually leaves tied with Matt Jordan for most games for FC Dallas, which is crazy. He didn't feel like he was here that long, but it just shows you how
that is crazy.
Yeah, so it just shows you how short the run of a top keeper is, But at the same time, Dan, like once you lose your job, even if it was partially because of an injury to another guy, you become perhaps somewhat expendable. And obviously, his life and family and girlfriend or whatever she official status is over in Europe, and he had a lot of value that is too much value to be sitting behind a young homegrown. So you got to maximize that value and get a return on it. And we know that as well as anybody, Dan. And so it's good business, really, in a way, even though we're bummed to see him go.
Yes, I mean, obviously it's not the biggest fee, but everything's kind of indicating like $1.5 million. They paid roughly $1 million for him, so you make a little bit. It sounded like from some of his interviews at Ajax that there were a couple of personal things taking him back to Europe. The girlfriend was obviously based in Europe, which a couple of years that's difficult to have that. So yeah, if the biggest club in your nation comes calling, that's a hard thing to resist.
Yeah. Is it, am I being too cynical in reading into this as a kind of somewhat historically consistent do the player a favor move by the Hunts here? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I was surprised at the amount. I thought Paz would pull a larger amount than $1 million or $1.5 million.
His contract ran through this season. He had two options. He had 27, 28. They actually have lots of time on him. So I think it's more likely that, if he's going to be sitting here second team, that's going to devalue his contract and his career. So you might as well do it before the word is around that he's not playing, and he loses value that way.
Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of all of it tied behind the story of how he ended up leaving. But he was great while he was here. He was a great acquisition for a very fair fee. I think they maximized the value out of him at the time. So That's pretty great. So we'll miss him very much. And he put up this was the best goodbye video I've seen out of the club in some time. I thought it was really, really well put together.
Yeah.
And if you're at all sentimental or have any kind of feelers, it might, not me, put a little sand in your eye. So there you go. It'll be interesting to see how he does at Ajax, if he gets off the bench, if he just ends up being, if he gets a real shot at playing regularly for them. But I mean, obviously with his supermodel girlfriend living over there and spending a lot of time in France, he's much closer. They've been in a relationship for quite some time. And part of me begins to wonder if we won't see those two tie the knot sometime sooner than later. So we'll see what happens. All right. So on the heels of that, the team needed a new second keeper. And that news came down today as they made a trade with Montreal for a young man named Jonathan Soroy.
I prefer to say serious because then you can say it's a very serious trade or something. Soroy, I honestly don't know a lot about this keeper. You know, he's been playing for a team that's not particularly good. The one nice thing about, well, not the one nice thing, there's a couple nice things about this deal. Number one is that he's a homegrown for Canadian, which means that he's not an international for anybody at MLS because he was signed as a homegrown by Montreal. So that's good. No international spot. And then the deal, I think, is actually pretty good. Like the initial $75K in GAM this year and next year, and then it has some conditional stuff. So like it's a really cheap backup unless he turns out to be really great and becomes a starter. Then you got to pay a little more money, which is perfectly reasonable. So it's a very valued deal since, you know, we would expect probably that Colodey's going to be the starter. But you know, if he becomes a starter and then earns that extra cost, then he'll be worth it. So either way, great value deal, I think. Dan, I don't know how you feel about this one. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Good upfront cost, 75.26 GAM, 75.27 GAM. I think his salary was like around the 250 mark last year. 200,000 in conditional GAM if performance metrics are met. Whatever, who cares? Doesn't occupy an international spot as a Canadian homegrown. I mean, that's, if he comes in and sits as backup, great. He's done the job.
All right, so this is part of the reason why I asked the question about were the Hunts doing Paz a favor to let him go, because he might be a perfectly fine backup, but I'm all on the Colodey train, but I also am interested in seeing how the Colodey experience goes over the course of a full season. And being a young guy and not a super tall, you know, MLS typical size guy, having Paz as the second option always felt a lot safer to me. This is such an unknown with this guy, and he doesn't have a tremendous track record. That's where I started to begin to build this idea that maybe Paz came to them and said, look, if I'm not your lock starter, I would really love to go home, and maybe my agent can find an opportunity for me somewhere. And the agency did in the Ajax deal. And that's when this deal came about with Soroy, that's where it started to really connect with me. And I'm wondering if you guys think there's anything to it.
No, I 100% think there is. You know, Paz's significant other was at the Ajax signing, and video and pictures, not to read too much into this, she looks pretty happy. I mean, I don't blame her. You know, her significant other has been on the other side of the planet for 3 years or whatever. So to get him back, you know, where she lives and they can, you know, build a life together, as one presumes they would want to do, you have to think that that's true. And you also have to think that Paz wants to keep playing for Indonesia, and this will be a lot closer for that to happen. And it'll also be a place that'll, you know, he'll be seen by more people and it'll be perceived as more prestigious playing for Ajax. I mean, that's not nothing. So like in a lot of ways, he probably perceives this as a step forward. And now Dallas, by doing this, they can once again show, hey, look, we're a club that can get you places. You know, went from Utrecht to us to Ajax. You know, like that's where we are in the world. It's our place. So I'm sure it's all part of why it works for Dallas to do it the way they are right now.
Well, considering last year they had a little hot flash with the MLS pool keeper who played out of his mind, maybe this guy will come good too in a time of need. And we shouldn't judge him by his Montreal impact time because, as you said, Buzz, that's a nest show up there.
Yeah, not a very good team, so hard to really judge how many goals he was letting in, unless he's part of the problem, obviously. But, you know, Dallas is willing to roll the dice on him. So,
All right, so the guys have been over in Portugal doing Portuguese things, and since we last talked, they did play a game against Salt Lake.
Yep.
And they ended up winning that game 3-1.
Well, 3-1 after 3 halves, after 2 halves, after 90 minutes, it was only 2-0. It's one of those deals where they played 3 halves, which is weird, but you know how that goes.
We would call those periods, Buzz.
Periods. Yeah, like hockey. Well, they played 3 40-minute sessions, so soccer halves anyway. Not, the game was at 5 a.m, and I don't believe it was available on stream, so we don't have a ton to take away from it, except looking at the lineups. Goal scorers, Peter Musa scored with an assist from Delgado. Anderson Julio with an assist, I believe, by Diego Garcia. And then Ricky Lewis got a goal at the end. Appears to be unassisted. But Collodi played both halves, basically, which shows you that at that point they were out of keepers completely and didn't trust the other kid that's there. And
you mean all halves?
Yeah, all 3, apparently. Yeah. Everybody played about 70, 75 minutes mostly, and then they rotated a lot of people in at the 70th minute mark. But, if you want to look at your starting 11 as we get closer to the beginning of the season, I think it starts to be telling, right, that we can take a little away from that. And the new wingback Herman Johansson started at apparently left wingback, continuing this flipped wingback, inverted wingback thing with Murney at right wingback. And then, much to my chagrin, Ibiaga, Urigide, and Moore are your 3 starting center backs. Now, depending on which way you read the lineup, you could read that as Bernie left, Johansson right, and then. But it appears that if you're reading it the way we've been reading it all spring, Shaq Moore is getting the starts at right center back, and Ibi is at left center back. So Ibi starting, over Nolan Norris still at this point. Midfield is Kappas, Kaik, and at the base of the triangle, Delgado, is your 10, and then Farrington and Moose up top. So that's very much like what any of us would have penciled in as a starting 11, minus that we might have wanted Nolan Norris, minus maybe we might have thought Kaik over would sit in favor of Ramiro perhaps, but otherwise pretty on point. And then you got the rotation you would have expected: Nolan, Alvaro, and Abubakar in the back. Lewis came in. Deedson came in apparently also at wingback again, which is interesting, I suppose. Diego Garcia, Ramiro, Swan still playing. No Paxton Pomacall. Simmons and Julio up top. So, we're getting a pretty defined first team, second team group going here. We did see, Torcado come in late. We did see Sarver come in a little bit later. So nothing crazy, but maybe not quite the 11 we were kind of hoping for to start the season. At least I was not. I was hoping to see Nolan in there for sure. But
well, let's talk about that a little bit because in the day after the game took place, and I saw, especially in your Discord, Buzz, I saw a lot of noise about the fact that Nolan didn't start and Ibiaga did, and I started thinking about this for a bit. And you're actually the best resource to get into this with because you know way more about Nolan Norris than I do.
Yeah.
But it began to, I was thinking about a start of a 26 season where if you're going to play with a back 3, the idea that 2 of your 3 center backs are not natural center backs seems to be a pretty risky move. I know Nolan is good in defense, but my impression is he's not a natural center back, and this is a bit of a conversion for him. Maybe not as great as it is going to be for Shaq, but he's also just a kid. So I'm just wondering if that's the thing that will push Ibiaga to start, is because he's a known entity in that position.
It's certainly a case that for Coach Quill, he has not seen Nolan Norris play a lot of left center back. We've mostly seen that with the national team more than we have with FC Dallas, because FC Dallas hasn't played a ton of that. And he did really well, though, right at that one start at the end of last season. And Quill being a guy who wants to have trust and faith in people, it's not surprising that he's gone with the veteran Ibiaga. For me, the issue becomes I don't think Ibiaga is good enough that you can win much with him, just playoffs or MLS Cup or get high in the standings. Now, today, I'm sure you can make a case that Ibiaga is a safer, more solid pick. But I don't want to play for today. I want to play for 9 months from now or 2 years from now, whatever it is. this is just like what happened with Nkosi Tafari when they had him and they just sort of nickel and dimed him to death. And it's like, dude, at some point you got to invest in these young players and just play them. Nolan's been on the first team for a couple of years now. It's not like he's fresh out of the academy anymore. He's been playing with the national team at this position from time to time, as much as he does at left back. He's a captain of that national team all the time. So, like, at some point, you got to play the guy. If they never are going to play him, why do they keep re-signing him? You might as well sell him and get money for him.
Well, but how much of this is tied to the fact that it's not just Nolan Norris they're having to plug in here, new to the position, but also Shaq Moore?
I don't think any, because Shaq Moore did that a whole bunch last year, and Quill talked about how if he keeps playing like that, he'll add 10 years to his career. So he obviously has absolute faith in Shaq Moore. If they're going to continue to just flip side thing, you've got a very veteran Johansson outside of him over on that side. It's not like it's going to be Bernie. If we believe this flip wingback thing is actually happening, so I'm not saying that that's the answer. I'm just saying I'm disappointed it's not Nolan. I understand why it's Ibeagha, but it bums me out.
Yeah. Okay.
The rest of it, is 100% fine. And you could maybe argue that, if you buy Ibeagha should be starting over Nolan, then why isn't Ramiro starting over Kayik? Ramiro's even more of an important leader. Kayik is much more of a disaster in terms of flying around and 2-footing peoples and giving up PKs than Nolan Norris is. Nolan Norris is very reliable and very mentally intelligent about the game.
Except for the yellow card thing.
Well, he's gotten a lot better about that. He's cleaned that up. But yeah, that was a problem before. I understood it before. But, it may be a thing where, like, once you start playing Nolan, you could find out he's not good enough. Dan, you might as well find it out fast, not later. Not when you're one player away from MLS Cup. Do it now when you're 6 players away from MLS Cup. That's my take.
Dan, you got any thoughts about this?
I just don't really read a whole lot into games where there's 21 players play through the course of it. I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday. That's going to be the first indication of a closer to a game situation.
Yeah, but Ibeagha, Urguide, and Moore have started together every scrimmage so far. It's not like it was one game that this happened. It's been every game. So it's like, I know what you're saying, Dan, and we got a couple more games before the season starts. And actually, the season opener is what really matters, or maybe even a month from now. I don't know. I just, like, at some point, what's the point of signing these kids and bringing them through if you're never going to play them, right? This is the FC Dallas, right? The whole thing. Play them, bring them along, play them. Not playing 34-year-olds no one gives a crap about.
Yeah, there were also different periods. There were also different stages in preseason. Nolan had the U20 camp that he went off too late so that he could get those early reps in. So there may also be like a transition back to.
Yeah. Okay.
Give him
I hope you're right.
Minutes,
hope you're right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it shakes out.
I'm telling you, Ibeagha's starting. Just watch.
Yeah, I think he is too, based on what we're seeing in the spring.
So where are we in the preseason schedule? What's coming up, Dan?
They're back on Saturday. New York Red Bulls at home in Toyota Stadium as part of that Torneo de Tejas thing. Be a 1 p.m. kickoff.
Wait, what's the Torneo de Tejas thing?
Oh, it's FC Dallas and Houston are hosting some friendlies, and they're just putting it under the guise of another nonsense cup name.
And you get a squashed armadillo for the trophy?
No, that's a different tournament entirely.
Oh, okay.
That was a cool trophy.
Yeah, that's a good one. This is just like the Atlantic Cup or the La Manga Cup or the Phoenix Sun Cup. It's all just
it's just BS.
They just throw a name on it to make it sound fun,
Okay.
Yeah. It's not even sponsored. Who cares?
Yeah.
Mobile Mini Sun Cup for the win.
Brought to you by Third Degree.
So after New York Red Bull, Dan, this Saturday, what's next after that?
I believe they play Houston in a training ground friendly on the 11th. That'll be a morning game. Atlanta and New York play in another training ground game at the same time, both behind closed doors, so we don't get any access to that whatsoever. But yeah, we're back.
Yeah. And they got one last game against Atlanta, I think, right on the 14th.
That was I just figured we'll talk before then.
Yeah, we will.
And is there any buzz, no pun intended, on the mythical signing of a 10?
Well, people that I have talked to have mumbled about, why you don't like Delgado? You might need to get used to Delgado.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
feeling like a summer window vibe in the lands as I sort of listen to the tea leaves. I don't like that. I feel like you sold uh, Lucho Costa so long ago that you would have had half a season to line up before the next window came around to line up a move, and you didn't get it lined up. So I know it ain't easy, I guess, but
I mean, 2 weeks ago, there was still definitely a lot of talk about it happening now. I don't know
hope
if
so.
maybe them
Yeah.
going to Portugal kind of slows things down because Andre's obviously there. He went to Benfica the other week, Sevilla. So I don't know maybe how much that just grinds things to a halt. But
Yeah, I'm hoping
Running
that
out of
the sort of stillness or non-moveness that I'm feeling is that I'm kind of vibing is just related, Dan, to them being gone. That you could be right, that could be what is causing that. I hope it is, because 6 months ago, for 6 months to a whole window ago was when you got rid of your 10. You should have had time to get another one. You don't. There is a school of thought that if you think you're going to lose Petter Musa after the World Cup, then maybe you want to wait, and see what you're doing in that window anyway. Is Logan ready? Do I need a new 9, or do I not need a 10 and something else? I mean, who knows, man? It's hard to know sometimes what they're thinking. I was like, I don't know how you think that. When we watch these clips that they provide of social media, they always have these huddle ups where Quill's in there and they go, they do the typical 1-2-3 break, whatever. Their one this time is championship or championships or whatever. Well, if you're going to be throwing that word around as like your training mantra with one DP, I don't know if you understand how this league works. Sometimes when that happens, maybe I'm being super negative, but like of your U22s, of which you have 5, well now 4, only one of them does anything, and that's Delgado. Kayik, like we're not even sure that he's going to be starting. Where I'm sort of surprised he's starting in a sense. I mean, maybe they are going to start him, which would be good. At least that's something. But still, you're going to have your midfield triangle is Kappas, who just came back, who I like, but isn't a DP. He's not regarded at that level. And you're running 2 22-year-olds or younger in there with him, and that's going to carry you to MLS Cup and championships. I mean, it feels out of sorts to me.
Well, it just feels like another season of building, in which the team feels like it's been in a perpetual state of building since 2017, maybe 2018, I should say.
I guess if you keep firing your coaches, that's what happens. But
well, yeah, that, and it just, they start putting blocks on top of each other, and then they lose a piece or it doesn't work out, so they have to fire the manager and they start putting a new roster together, and it never feels like we ever get to a point where the team and the front office goes, okay, this is our shot. We've got enough pieces. If we just add a couple of other things, we can make ourselves a legitimate contender. And if we're going into a season where we're worried about losing our star player because he may end up having a kick-ass World Cup, man, that just feels like we're just never going to get out of this rut of just being that team.
And they made some noise this offseason about how they really liked their team coming out of last year, and that's fair. They had a good end of the year, a good run. We've talked about how there should be some mattress in there, but they've flat out said we're not going to make a lot of changes this time. But how many times, year after year after year, Dan, have we talked about if you stand still, you're going to get passed by?
Yeah, 100%. And we talked about how big, how good the window was this time last year meant nothing if they couldn't follow up right now.
Well, I think the funny thing about this time last year was we were very much in the exact same mood until the Lucho Acosta thing popped up out of the blue. I mean, we were talking about it being a wooden spoon team, I believe, if I recall correctly.
We were.
And then they got Lucho Acosta, and we went, oh, look, there's some ambition. I think we were all curious at the time if it was a good or a bad fit, but we didn't care because it was a former MLS MVP and he couldn't hurt, we didn't think. We all turned out to be unbelievably wrong about that. But, that's why I'm not too completely pessimistic about this season, but it does feel like it's lining up that way a little bit.
Lucho signed on the 12th of February last year. That is Cocktails and Cleats when they unveiled the new jersey.
That's right.
Maybe they will have a brand new number 10 jersey printed just for it.
Yeah, last year, this time we were talking Wooden Spoon. The team is, because across the board, they've jettisoned, just got dudes, just guys, and added good pieces. Kappas has been a great ad. Kaique has matured, even if he's not as good as Ramiro right yet. Maybe the couple of pieces they've added this winter have looked pretty good signings. Losing Paz as a backup maybe is a little bit of a little bit of floating place like he did last year. But there's a lot to like about the general state of the team. But the same thing is true now as it was last year. You still are looking for that DP level magical guy, that special player that can take you from a middle of the pack team that's hard to differentiate from anybody else to a team that has something a little special. You got Petter Musa. You have this amazing 9. You have Logan Farrington, who's primed to have a great season. Like if you could add the 10 and not just ride Delgado, who, even if you like him, you have to admit he's a low assist guy. He does not get assists. He's a bull in the midfield, but he doesn't string passes together and crack open.
He's not
defenses.
A creator in that sense.
Yeah, not a creator. So, you're not playing a formation that has wings, so you don't have wing creators either. You got wing backs. One of your new wing backs is a relatively good creator. I'll grant you that. But the other one, Bernie, really isn't. So, you're still missing the ability to get the ball to the feet of these great strikers you have, and that is the thing that's going to keep you from being an elite. I'm not saying a winning team, a championship winning team. I'm saying even just a top third team. You'd like to get out of the middle pack. Otherwise, you're just going to be middle pack on this year with this team. So that's where we are.
Well, again, if we sound pessimistic, let's just remember it was just a week or so later this time last year that suddenly things felt a lot better. Again, that didn't work out very well, but it felt good to feel good. At least for a little bit of time when they went out. The
team is for sure better than it was last year. That's not a question.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing I was going to get into real quick is just if you were to look where the team was at this time last year, roster-wise, and this year, do you feel like it's a better team this year?
I do, because Shaq Moore proved himself at center back, which is a big help. I like keeping Anderson Julio, even though he's not going to be a starter. Kappas is much better than what they were rolling out last time. Johansson looks to be a fantastic ad. Benjamin, what we've seen of him in limited, looks like he has a monster engine. If you can figure out a way to get him in midfield more consistently, maybe than over some of the other guys, that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. There's a lot of potential there in that kid, I think. So, okay. There's, for me, Giovanni Jesus potentially being back as a possible piece. There's all the dudes have been upgraded, right? The pieces are all upgraded, I think. You just need the king, the queen piece, the little special pieces that can do real damage. That's what you're missing. Okay. Plenty of time to still do it, but the window doesn't close till late March. But I just was like, since they've come back from Portugal, the winds are blowing towards maybe waiting. So,
Buzz, it dawned on me that with the announcement of your relocation, how does that impact the longstanding trick of you leaving town and suddenly things happening to the team?
It worked this week with Paz and the new keeper. Yeah.
But now that you're gone all the time,
well, it'll have to work the other way. It'll be like when I travel
when you come to town,
or when I drive back to Dallas for something. Yeah, I'm thinking about coming back for Dallas Cup because I can hit a high volume of games in one shot. You know what I mean? So that's in the cards maybe. So some things like that'll still happen. The trick is me leaving my nest of computer where I can do my work. So when I leave that, I'm on the road in a car. And the first time that happened was when I was driving through Arizona and Dallas traded Kellen Acosta away. And my phone just went, like it. Driving down I had to pull off the highway. My phone was just going crazy. It was like, same stuff.
Crazy. All right. Well, there you go. There's the catch up. All right. Let's move on. Dallas Trinity, man. So let's see. The game was Saturday. Friday night, I was watching Mike Leslie do the Channel 8 10 o'clock news, and I got a little thrill when I saw the camera come back to him and the Dallas Trinity logo was on the wall behind him. And he said, Dallas Trinity has a game at the Cotton Bowl tomorrow at 4 p.m. It kicks off their 2026 season. I was like, oh no.
Spring season.
And then, of course, it was also and again, there's a lot of things to think about with this because it was, USLSL plays this new, broken winter schedule that MLS is moving to. And here we are, and a game being played at the end of January, early February at the Cotton Bowl outdoors. And it was brutal cold. And man, I am pretty sure you could count the number of people at the game on a deck of cards.
Yeah, I don't think word has gotten out that the season was really starting up again. It's a tough sell. I've certainly been in the Cotton Bowl when it's been that cold. I've also been in the Cotton Bowl when it was 120. So, pick your poison about which one you don't like. We have extreme weather in Texas. So, in the United States in general.
I mean, the Cotton Bowl last year at that time was brutal, and that was without it being below freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that my observation from this continues to be, I hope MLS is taking notes, because the one concern I have about this new schedule is the fact that professional leagues in the United States don't stop down for 6 weeks. It's just not part of our sporting culture. And I'm really worried about how they go about treating that time off and keeping themselves somewhere on people's radar.
Yeah.
For this exact reason. I really, really think that MLS needs to be keeping an eye on this. And I also think Atletico Dallas needs to be keeping an eye on the struggles that Trinity are having in getting people to come to the Cotton Bowl to go to soccer games.
Well, even more when you consider that USL, they've done this Super League off calendar as an experiment in a sense as well. So it's entirely plausible that all of USL might flip their calendar.
Yeah.
So it could be something Atletico Dallas could be looking at in Fort Worth when they come in as well. So, it's always been a question, not a question. It's always been a concern that with Major League Soccer that you're going to have to educate culturally. Like the United States in general was not dialed in culturally to soccer. And so in a lot of ways it still isn't. Your average American isn't aware of the European calendar or the European teams or the way soccer works around the world. So you're going to have to continue to try and educate people. That was always the case and always will be the case probably for quite a long time. I think it's a surmountable problem. I do worry about oversaturation in this market, actually. By the time you add Atletico Dallas and then another team or two in Fort Worth and these Division III teams that are popping up, Rodeo, and et cetera, it makes you wonder if there's enough audience. Makes me wonder.
Well, Dallas did play the game. They ended up drawing Brooklyn 1-1. It was also the debut of their new manager. Any observations or thoughts from the game that you guys would like to share? I did not see it.
Yeah, the new keeper went straight into the 11. The new defender that we thought was a center back appears to be playing right back because Wisner seems to have been back in the back line too. I could be mistaken around that, but looking at the lineup, I believe that's the case. Steinbrook right into the lineup. So the new pieces they added, they played them right away, which is good. When you get a new piece, you want to see that piece be impactful and get right in the game. Cameron Lancaster scored a long-range goal to put them up 1-0. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold on. I was excited to see Caroline Swan get in the game as a young player, Caleb's sister. Really talented youth international for the United States. Her started to get some minutes at school. Celie Strong came off the bench. Allie Thornton came off the bench. So, at home, you'd like to see them win, hold on and win. But when you got 3 new pieces integrating into the game, and we're hearing talk of another 4th piece being signed as well. So it might take them a game or two to get some kinks ironed out. But, good start, I think. And it's not a loss, so they're still staying at the top of the standings still, top portion of the standings, not at the top. But, they got some it's nice to see them make some moves that make sense with how we think the new coach wants to play and get them integrated into the team.
All right. What's their next game?
Let's see. They got
Fort Lauderdale away.
Yeah. They got a couple of away games, which is weird. It is, you would think that it's in February, it can be cold in Dallas, but it often is really cold other places too. So they go to Fort Lauderdale, they go to Lexington, they go to Carolina, which should be relatively okay weather. And then they get the Dash, the big Houston Dash friendly against the up division team. So that'll be back home in late February. And then in March, they open up with another road game. So other than the friendly against the Dash, they're not back home with a home game until mid-March. So not a great schedule.
Just talking about the attendance stuff. I know last season it came up their kickoff times were just not ideal. The last game they kicked off at 2:30. This game they kicked off at 4. The next game they kick off at 7:30. You can't build an audience if they don't know what time to actually go to the stadium.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going about deciding kickoff times. I didn't know if the afternoon times was because they had gotten feedback that people didn't want to go to Fair Park at night, or if it was a broadcast schedule issue, or what. I'm curious as to how they're coming to that decision to play that schedule. So
that was one of my complaints about MLS in the early days. Is it felt like every week FC Dallas was playing at a different time on a different. It's really hard to know when the games were. Like in the NFL, you're really dialed in. Everybody knows when the games were. I actually think that the Apple TV has done a good job of blocking those down where you know what time the games are, relative to the chaos of the early years. And maybe Trinity's having a little problem with that.
Maybe. Well, I think they're having trouble with a lot of these little issues about trying to build a market here.
Probably fair.
I still think Dan's right. The solution to their attendance problem, ironically, is Frisco. I think that's like the smartest thing anybody has said on this podcast in 348 episodes.
Yeah, they're pretty like Atletico. They're super dialed in to be in Dallas, though. I don't know that's
fine. If they're gonna get kids to go out and go to these games at Fair Park, they're gonna have to really ramp up how they're going about trying to pull that audience.
Yeah. There's a bit of a difference. The Atletico are dialed into being Dallas's team. Dallas Trinity is just dialed into the idea of, well, we're here, so you might as well.
Well, there is a sense, and I don't know that. I mean, my observation is, it feels like that they are. It's kind of like the thing that we used to talk about with Clark and Dan, which is build it and they will come kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, hey, we're offering professional women's soccer in a very women's soccer positive, popular, high interest level marketplace. Why wouldn't you come do this? And I think that's where you start to run into the kind of the obstacles of the Cotton Bowl.
Well, I think as well, like there was a problem. There was someone in the Discord had mentioned it, that their daughter played for Solar, I believe. Those players have no awareness of that team unless they play with the players who end up playing for Trinity. Yeah. Like they need to be integrated. They need to be like from under 8 or whatever your youngest age group is. They're Dallas Trinity fans because that's the pathway, and you let them know, the parents know from a very early age, that's the pathway to follow. The same way that, FC Dallas does it with FC Dallas youth players.
They did have like a solar club night, I think, which is an attempt, Dan, like you said, to try and sort of make that happen. They may not have been very successful with it. I don't know. But
I mean, they need to have people at Craig Ranch, every hub of local youth soccer. They need to get that awareness out. Even if it's free tickets, they got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Before we move on to the other USL stuff, I did want to do a few minutes of kit talk.
Hell yeah! Sorry, Steve.
Well, no, I'm going to apologize to Dan first because I'm going to put you under the screws because we're just mere 12 days away from supposed reveal of new FC Dallas home kit. Mr. Crooke, you're not going to fail us, are you?
I might. Who knows? Last year we obviously got a little bit jumped by the ding dong on Twitch.
Yeah.
Who I gather is not getting another jersey from FC Dallas.
Or maybe he will, just to spite you, Dan Crooke.
Oh no, well it's it's a different regime now. They actually are making smart decisions and stuff. No, I'm still interested to see the way that I always build these up is one, like knowledge of what's going on. We know several of the kits in the league. We've known what the template's going to be like for a very long time. There's certain things you can make an educated guess on. But then FC Dallas always drops hints. There's little teasers around, whether it's from the
Like
league,
Easter
whether it's
eggs
from
and some of the
media
marketing
day,
materials.
yeah.
Yeah, design Easter eggs.
Well,
yeah.
and some of them are intentional, some of them are not. There haven't been a whole lot of those, unfortunately.
No, there hasn't.
And so yeah, I mean, I could tell you exactly what I think it's going to roughly be, but details matter in these.
So we do know that there's some sort of fan event coming up. That they're going to build. They're going to be building some. No. Where they're going to be building some marketing materials, and people are going to get to see.
Oh yeah.
The kit in person, but then they have to sign NDAs where they cannot reveal that.
Well, that's no fun.
Dan, will you kidnap one of said people and get them and fill them with drugs and get them to reveal to you?
So funny thing is, so I did that story on the design behind the archive kit that we dropped the same day the kit came out. So I went up to the stadium and I got to see it, and a couple of days ahead of time. I believe the idea is to do that again. So I need to have the mock-up done and out before that
Before
day.
then.
Whenever that is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully it turns out. Based on some of these other designs I've been seeing coming out across the league, my enthusiasm for this shirt is only holding together because enough people have said to us they've seen it and they think it's awesome. But I'm worried it's going to have too much of a bit going on and not more of the straightforward design that I'm thinking we're hoping it's going to be.
I do understand there is like a small detail pattern on it of some variety, which may not be a bit, but yeah, it may be.
And I also dawned on me, I'm concerned that the back panel will be blue instead of red or something like that. Like it'll be a predominantly blue kit or something. That's going to drive me nuts.
I believe it's red.
Okay, good.
Don't hold me to that, but
okay,
I believe it's red.
Well, the shorts and socks are blue, so it's already going to be very blue.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like they've typically, lately they've had blue shorts or blue socks, and well, even the last jersey that was half and half, it was still a red back. I think that's kind of the notion of it, that it's not a blue jersey, it's not a red jersey, it's a bit of everything.
As long as it's not purple.
Well, I want to go to Houston for this awful secondary kit they're getting, but I also have to admit it drives me nuts that the league once again has allowed Houston to get a kit that does not provide enough of a contrast to their primary kit, that now they're going to have to march around the league and force home teams to play in their secondary kits because there are going to be so many lack of contrast between either one of the Houston kits and a lot of Major League Soccer's home primary kits.
Yeah, I don't understand how they've managed to put orange in two jerseys. Like, even if you get away from the light and dark, it's the two kits clash with each other.
Yeah, Houston could not wear their orange kit and this thing. And by the way, Dan, you described the new kit for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, please. The new shirt. We haven't seen the shorts combo or anything like that.
A roadmap where apparently Houston has been submerged in lava and weirdly bruised. Actually, yeah. Arsenal had the bruised banana. This is the bruised tangerine.
I was going to call it wino vomit, but
yeah.
I mean, the problem is that if you look at either one of these kits, Dallas can't wear a predominantly red, or Dallas couldn't wear last year's home kit against either one of those.
Nah, I mean, they could potentially get away against the orange because their orange is so light, but they don't do it. It's always, yeah.
We also see we've seen images of the new Portland away kit or secondary kit. I really like it. It's kind of a light lemon colored shirt with white shorts and lemon colored socks. I think that's a good looking kit. It's got a cool little pattern in the design.
So that is a mock-up. We have seen they've given away the pattern. it's based on Goose Hollow in Portland. So there's, I guess, a wall with wallpaper on somewhere that has this funky yellow Art Deco pattern. It's based on that, and then they did a teaser with one of their players because they always every year they love doing teasers. Where the guy's like, "Oh, can I show the New Jersey now?" Starts to unzip his jacket, and like, nope,
right,
zips it straight back up. So you get to see the collar, and that's about it.
And the color and the collar.
Yeah. But yeah, they've got like an olive green in it. And it's either going to be really cool or really dog shit.
Yeah. There was also, I'm curious, Dan, if you saw the drawing of both the U.S. World Cup kits. Now we're starting to see the authentic red and white striped kit with the open space for the number in the middle and revealing the fact that it is a white panel in the back. I'm like everybody else, and I'm curiously hopeful that it ends up with blue shorts. But man, this is where I'm really confused about how FIFA is going to be a stickler for light and dark kits. And if you wear that kit with blue shorts, I don't know how that is defined as your light kit. It's kind of like the Houston thing, you know. If you know what I mean.
They've had some exceptions for light jersey, dark shorts, like Germany. Other than that one World Cup where England, Germany, and a few others were forced to play in light shorts, they've been pretty good about having the distinction of you can play in a light jersey but dark shorts against someone that plays in dark jersey and light shorts. So, did you see the away kit's been revealed now?
Well, I saw a picture of just the shirt today. I don't think I saw the shorts. What color are the shorts? The same color as the shirt, I assume.
So the images that came out from Nike are not the shorts and socks for the kit. They were showing me these black shorts that have this red to blue US logo and then red socks. So they obviously go to something else, but I don't know what that would be for.
I wonder if that's one of those lifestyle photos, because they released an image of the new Uruguay kit that is really sweet, but they have the guy wearing like cargo pants with him or something. And it's weird because you thought it's a reveal of the full kit, and it's clearly not. It's just a kid wearing the home jersey with his own shorts or something like that with it. So maybe that's what they're showing with that US shirt.
They actually, weirdly, they did another set of photos of the Uruguay one with the shorts.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, yeah, I hate that they do this. Don't get me wrong, soccer jerseys are a fashion item. It's a huge thing now. The secondary market especially, is massive for retro stuff. But a kit's a kit. Just show it how it's supposed to be.
You mean for a game and not a night out on the town?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. If don't get me wrong, that's cool. That's great. But, like the France one, right? They've got the patterned shorts that go with the shirt. That's the selling point. I want to see that. Nike are doing this little... what's it? The little rope trim, and then they've got a secondary color. I want to see how that interacts from the shirt to the shorts. That can make or break a kit. Take the LAFC jersey. We've just seen the pictures have just come out of the actual jersey itself, with the colors just become too dominant. So the thing is that they don't reveal on any of those pictures, they're not playing in black shorts anymore. They are playing in gold shorts. So it looks absolutely horrendous when they're paired together, but they haven't released a photo of that yet. So that will make or break that kit for a lot of people.
Maybe that's why, because it looks horrendous together.
Oh, it looks dog shit. And same with Seattle. Seattle's going to have the two different color shorts. They're going to have the light teal and it's not rave green anymore. But those sort of details, that's important. I don't want to wait until the first game to see that sort of stuff. That's the nice thing about like cocktails and cleats and stuff. They'll sometimes have like a couple of guys in full kit to show it off.
All right, very good. There's some kit talk. Let's move on into the news from last week. We've been waiting for more details on how USL plans to roll out their new Division I sanctioned league, which they did now do the right thing and call it USL Premier. So there you go. So now it'll mirror the English pyramid of the top division being called Premier, next second being USL Championship, and then getting super confusing. The third tier is now called USL 1.
Yeah, it's stupid.
And the fourth tier is USL 2. Now, what they've also defined is they will have a set of teams for the Premier. They hope to eventually be 20. They hope that the championship will also settle at 20. And then curiously, this is the one I thought was interesting. They're going to take the Division 1 league and chop it up into regions, much like how the National League is done in England. And I'm sure they'll clarify some sort of pathway to championship from that as well. They have admitted that when they launch the league in 2028, it probably will not start with 20 teams. It's likely that either both or both of the championship and Premier may have as few as 12 or 14 teams in it. And it will launch in 2028. And they're also, continuing to throw out the promotion relegation discussion, although they are very much being a bit shady's not the right word. They're being very vague about how they're going to implement the promotion relegation piece of this. And I think there are a lot of reasons behind that. And we can discuss that if you guys are at all interested.
Definitely.
Well, I think, the surface level, the macro level stuff is that it all played out exactly pretty much like we thought it was. Maybe there's some detail in the number of teams, the 20 teams, but, we knew Premier was coming. We knew that it was going to have these major markets, and we knew that we were almost certain it was going to be Premier, that they were going to call it that. They already had the names lined up, Championship or First Division. So, there's nothing shocking in there and all that stuff, other than the fact that it's actually the first time there's been a concrete amount of information that it literally is 2028, and they're literally going to have these teams in it, not specific teams, but a certain amount of teams. And the first time we've literally heard since the initial announcement any of that stuff, and so that for them to still be talking about Pro Rel is interesting. I'm not convinced that it'll launch with that. Still, I think that's your Pierre and you guys have both been saying that it might not.
Yeah, the way it was explained to me was they would hold off on involving Premier with promotion and relegation for a few years just to let the division get established. It sounds, from everything they said in the past week, it sounds like they're at least intimating it will involve all three divisions. When they're going to start realistically with 12 teams in the Premier, which needs to grow to 20, I mean, do you just say, hey, yeah, we're going to reprieve whoever went down and promote from below the same way that you would build out a league in other countries? And then that way you kind of negate the risk for your investors of, hey, first however many years until we hit 20, you have no chance of getting relegated. Your investment's technically safe.
Well, and the stadium's qualifications for Division 1, Division 2 status are obviously a massive question too, like how that will work. Can teams even meet those requirements right now? And will you be able to, if Rodeo SC comes up and playing in Salina in their high school stadium, how do they get promoted up to Premier? There's still many questions that have to be ironed out, and some of that stuff is dictated by U.S. Soccer, not necessarily by the league itself. The population densities and the amount of stadium sizes you need and stuff like that. It's not as simple as people think it is sometimes.
No, it'd be interesting to see if this creates a shift in the way stadiums are judged. Right, in the UK, you have ground grading. So while the capacity is a very small part of it, it gets into the minutiae of how many showers are in the locker room, how many men's and women's restrooms, how many ADA compliant. Where is the tunnel in relation to the halfway line? How much of it is covered? What is the distance from the pitch perimeter advertising to the touchline? All the fun stuff that most people don't really care about. But it creates this system where you have gradings. I think it's A through F, and that dictates where you can and can't go in the pyramid. A famous example was Stevenage in 1996. They won the conference at the time. They were denied promotion to the Football League because their ground just simply didn't meet the grading, and there was no grace period of, oh, you've got 2 years to do X amount of work, because it was that far behind. Sherman or Denison, wherever Texoma is going to be playing, you're not going to say, oh, hey, yeah, you've got 2 years to make this a 15,000 seater, this stadium that you don't own and you don't have the land to build on. So they've got to come up with something that's a little more nuanced.
Yeah, it's obvious to me that U.S. Soccer can throw out all sorts of exemptions for clubs that don't currently meet the requirements, and they can do that
with the NASL doing that.
Sure, 100%. Just roll with me here. I think the problem is that if you go through and look at the collection of clubs they have now, only 4 clubs out of the entire USL pyramid play in a stadium that even meets the 15,000 seat requirement. Half of the rest of the teams in the championship play in what are called soccer-specific stadiums. The rest play in a collection of minor league baseball stadiums, college stadiums, former baseball stadiums, or multi-sport venues. A lot of them are turf instead of grass, and the ones that are even beautiful little soccer stadiums are like 7,000 feet, or the 7,000 max capacity. So setting aside the average attendance stuff so far, the question becomes, even if you can initially find 12 teams to within the first year or 2 or even 3 meet the 15,000 seat requirement by either moving into a facility that can accommodate that, modify your existing structure, or build something new from the ground up, what about the rest of them as promotion relegation takes place, or you're trying to add more teams to the original 12 or 14 to get to that point? Are there enough investors out in the world who are interested in putting that amount of money at risk to help facilitate the growth of stadiums at a pace that allows them to build out a significant number or a majority of these clubs that are playing in the championship into the Premier or even down at level 1? I mean, if you just go through and look at the teams that are playing in USL 1 today, none of these teams are in markets that make any sense in terms of building out. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the list and I'm thinking about Knoxville and Naples and Forward Madison and Spokane and Union Omaha. Are these really legitimately serious markets that if they've got the team on the field good enough to get promoted from 1 to championship to Premier, do they even have the ability to fund a stadium to meet that stuff? And that's the part of this thing that just doesn't make any sense to me, and how they're going to move forward.
I think they could adopt the way that Spain does it. So Spain, the standard requirement is 15,000 seats, but they will give an exemption based on, geography, whatever. So like Getafe, they have an 11,000 seat stadium. They have dispensation because it would make no sense for them to put another 4,000 empty seats in.
Yeah,
there's going to be a real struggle there too with, even if you give dispensation where a team that comes with a 5,000 seat stadium can come up, where are they going to generate the revenue to buy and pay players that are going to be good enough to compete at a Division I level? Because there's a massive, massive revenue hole if you don't have the venue. We don't have a TV-driven revenue set up yet. Certainly not for USL 1. We barely do for MLS, if we even do. So,
well, I think that's part of the conversation, which is it's romantic to think that a team like Union Omaha could win their way into the Premier League, but the reality is that TV market holds very, very little value in terms of an advertising interest. And if suddenly your Premier League is littered with markets that are ranked 100 plus in the ranking scale, the ability to sell that on a national scale really becomes reduced in terms of broadcast deals. And the reason why I find all of this really interesting is that I did not know this until I began to research this, is how the USL handles revenue sharing. So this is interesting to me because, a lot of people have spent a lot of time trying to find ways to make fun of or insult Major League Soccer by calling it franchises or affiliates, and how it's a buy-in structure and it's not an open pyramid. Well, I hate to break it to a lot of people who are really excited about the USL, but the USL is very much its own business sandbox. It's a privately owned entity by a family, partially in Tampa Bay. And what I found out that was really curious to me is that, Major League Soccer is like the ultimate in revenue sharing
Mm-hmm.
and trying to foster stability and financial growth through all the clubs, through each other. USL is like, hey, you guys are coming in here, you're going to pay us a fee, and you're largely left to your own devices to figure out how you're going to keep yourself in business. The only revenue sharing done in USL is through the sponsorships, advertising, and the little amount of money that they raise in terms of a TV broadcast deal. And they take 50% off the top. That other 50% is what is trickled down to the entirety of the USL pyramid.
Yeah.
Last year, it was reported that the USL raised $65 million in expansion fees. Exactly zero of that was trickled down to the clubs. It was kept by the league itself.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that's a bad business model. I'm not criticizing the model. What I'm saying is that it means that the clubs, unlike Major League Soccer, are not 100%, but almost wholly dependent on raising the revenue to sustain themselves. And what I think this gets into is the thing that I think is really the number one thing that this entire project is going to need and depend on is a clearly thought out and defined and well communicated narrative of expectation setting about what this thing is going to be and what it is not. I'm very concerned that there is a significant percentage of people who are excited about all of this who think suddenly this is going to be the great Major League Soccer gobbler and competitor and killer. And what I think everybody fails, not everybody, a lot of people have failed to recognize is that MLS has a 30-year head start.
Yeah.
And when you begin to look at the numbers, by the way, currently USL doesn't have a CBA in place. It expired at the end of last year. The number that I've seen argued about the hopeful minimum wage for a starting USL player is only slightly more than half than what the least or what the minimum is for an MLS reserve player.
Yeah, MLS has been running a model that makes everybody healthy for a long time, and in a lot of ways, that's the way the NFL does it too, with their revenue sharing and their salary caps and all that kind of stuff. So this idea that pro rel is going to fix everything is like, this is a very cutthroat country in terms of business economics and revenue streams. And if those things don't exist, your franchises don't exist. There's been a lot of turnover in the middle to low end of USL for year after year after year. And I don't know that pro rel solves that.
Well, what happens when this thing kicks off for the first couple of seasons and the quality of play on the field is much more in line in the gap between the NWSL and the USL than, let's say, the difference between the Premier League and the Championship in England? I think a lot of people are going to be I think that's going to be interesting to see how the marketplace accepts that.
It takes a long time to get your league to a substantial level to be able to afford the players like the MLS does now. The gap is going to be massive in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have this issue like USL Super League has now. There's a huge perception issue of every player that leaves NWSL. Even the Canadian League is perceived higher than the Super League right now. So no one, the players that Dallas signed last week, no one expected that. No one in NWSL circles because it's not a comparable league.
Yeah, look, this is supposed to be a division that is better than the USL Championship. So that is going to have to be some sort of significant step between those two. But I do think when it launches, and for the first probably decade, the difference between USL Premier and MLS, I think, is going to be a far greater gap than what a lot of people are anticipating or hoping at this point.
Yeah, I think Premier and Championship won't be very far apart at the beginning. It'd be hard to tell the difference, to be honest.
Yeah. Would you be
Yeah.
surprised?
No, that's what I expect to have happen.
And also, let me also say, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I just think it will only be a bad thing if the people operating these organizations don't communicate that expectation clearly up front.
It just comes back to the same thing with like we talked about with the calendar flippage. The education of the audience, that people have to understand how it's going to be. That like this isn't, you can't walk in and throw around money like MLS throws around now. MLS took 30 years to get to that level, and no one's going to do that. And these unproven markets, these unproven teams, that are still trying to get their footing under them and break even. I mean, like, America is not a country where our sports teams operate at massive losses like teams in the Premier Leagues do. Everybody here is going to be making money and want to be making money, and they're not going to be burning billions of dollars every year on floating these franchises out of their own pocket. That's not the way they do business in the soccer here.
Well, I think that's why we all get very worried about Trinity.
Yeah. And it's why those MLS franchises show up in the top 20 valuable teams in the world, because of revenue potential and the way MLS works without relegation.
Yeah.
I mean, just to say that Forbes released the money list, I think last week.
Yeah.
No MLS team featured in the top 20 or 50. But when it comes to the most valuable, MLS is always the most featured team in the top 20 in the world, or most featured league, sorry.
Well, it will be fun to watch. I mean, I'm glad we're getting more and more information. I'm thoroughly excited about the potential of all of it. Atletico Dallas has done a really nice job kind of slowly growing their brand. I can't tell you how excited I am about the idea that if, in fact, it does happen, that this is a league that starts with a natural Dallas-Fort Worth derby built into it.
So good,
I think that would be awesome.
It's going to be great.
And at that point, I don't even care what the level of play is. I just want to see what a Dallas-Fort Worth derby looks like twice a season. I just think that'll be kick-ass, especially if it's an equally well-branded club as Dallas has worked towards over in Fort Worth. So we'll see how that all plays out. More to come, as they say. All right. Anything else that you guys want to get into? We've gone over our normal limit, and Buzz looks very tired.
I'm very tired. It's been a very long week. It's not the place to get into it, but it's been tough.
Yeah, I bet. All right. Anything from you, Dan?
No.
All right. Get off this thing and go make a mock-up, please.
Yeah, mock-up, get up. Yeah.
I need to run to Whole Foods first, but maybe.
Go get some granola or something. All right.
Filling up 5-gallon jugs, doing it the right way.
All right, good for you. Well, Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buzz?
Yeah.
Miss you, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah. First of all, spoke hand. Sorry you had to stare at my nose for an hour and a half. We'll get that fixed straightened up. But I'll be back in Dallas next week. If anyone wants to have lunch or something, I'll be around.
All right.
So,
very good. All right, boys. Thank you so much. And thank you to the DFW Soccer Curious out there. We'll speak to you next week on another edition of Third Degree, the podcast.
This podcast may get relegated.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.